What's up, everybody? Arne Giske here. So today we've got another awesome episode of MECTV with Mr. Nicholas Rozier, and we're going to be dumping tons of value on you guys. So I hope you're ready. Hope you brought your notepad and are just absolutely ready to take all this in and save time, figure out how to scale up. We have a bunch of different stuff that really goes a few layers deep. So on this one, I want to make sure you guys are paying attention and can take away a few pieces from it. So if you guys are watching this on the replay, go ahead, just type replay down below. If you guys are live, go ahead and say what's up. And as always, if you have any questions, just let us know down in the comments. So I'm going to get this shared out to the MEC and all over the place. But before we dive in, would love to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got started in all the stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah, man. So I've spent like 20 years, I think, in business and entrepreneurship, a little over that. And yeah, I'm one of those guys that brought the bag of candy to school and was selling them for 25 cents a piece because the candy machine was $2 for a little thing, you know, and so entrepreneurship's always been in my blood. But I was fortunate enough at a young age. So I became a firefighter when I was 19. And that schedule was 24 on, 48 off. So you've got a weekend between every shift that you work. And you have this salary that pays all your bills. So I got into real estate investment, got this business mentor, and he turned me on to a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which everybody's heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? One of the concepts that Kiyosaki teaches in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is work to learn, not to earn. And I was in this like perfect position to do that because I was making, you know, X a year as a firefighter with all this time off, right? In a month, I would have 10 days on shift, 20 days off. So I went and just started getting jobs to learn. A weird, crazy example is I went and got a job at a shooting range and I worked there until I could split a playing card with my Glock 9mm at 21 feet. Right? That's how long I worked there. And but I was able, you know, that's the fun example to talk about, right? But I was also able to go and work for startups. And, you know, because a lot of startups, it's everyone on the team is grinding, right? Everyone on the team is paying their dues and trying to like see the vision be realized. And there's not a lot of money in startups for team members. And so I was able to go in, not worried about money and just learn stuff. Yeah. And so I had done marketing, I had done sales, I had done logistics, product development, and I got to spend, you know, my 10 years in the fire department was also 10 years of business education. And it was a blast, you know, an amazing time working with great people and really building up my skill set. And so I enjoyed that a ton. And when I left the fire department, I went into other business ventures and spent time in sales. You know, it's kind of, I don't know, you don't want to say it, but I feel like I've done every kind of sales that you can do. You know, I've done traveling sales, group sales, B2B, B2C, you know, door to door, like all of that stuff.
Yeah. And, all the fun stuff. And if anybody else out there has done some door to door, let me know who the door to door warriors are down in the comments, because we all know the pain that comes with that. I did something close to it, but not quite door to door. But either way, you know, that's what really kind of breeds hustlers like us. So love to hear that. And so you've done all this different stuff in really a lot of categories from sales to startups, and then moving into some of these like higher caliber businesses. How did you go from like, you know, working for sales into some more of the, you know, operations, optimization, habits, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So in, you know, starting out in the fire department and having all of these other jobs, just ingrained in me this ethos of side gigs. And I've always had a side gig. And then when I left the fire department and I went into business, regardless of whatever business I was in, I always had a side gig. And whether it was, you know, we've sold stuff on Amazon FBA, you know, built different online marketing companies, done, you know, local business marketing, stuff like that. And I've always had a side gig.
Yeah.
So that was where it started, was getting into the side gig. And always, you know, my business mentor, the one thing he taught, like not one thing, the main thing he taught me was what he calls CANI, CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, right, the guy that started franchises, said that if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. And so my mentor said, always be growing, always be reading, always develop skills, always find new ways to grow. You know, one of the things that I do is I pick a new skill every year. I've got to learn this skill before the year is over, you know, whether it's copywriting or welding, right? You pick a new skill, you learn a new skill every year. And so as I was doing those things, I was picking up stuff along the way. And just like the last year, I'm not sure if he's on here. Manish, I know Manish wanted to be tagged because he wanted to see this. But I
better tag him.
A little over a year ago, I was introduced to Manish, to Pavlok, Pavlok.com, which is a behavior change company. And so I just started trolling Manish online, and I friended him, started commenting on his posts, trying to show up and kind of be omnipresent in everything. Every time he was on Facebook, he'd see me somewhere in that feed. And then I started messaging him, and I found someone that I know that knows him and connected with Manish and heard about Pavlok too, and the new product he's going to launch to help break bad habits and build new good habits. And talked him into flying me out to Boston, pitched him on a launch plan. And so back in, I think it was September of last year, he brought me on board just to consult for 3 months on Pavlok 2 launch. And when that launch was over, he brought me on full-time as the director of operations. And so for the last year, I was director of operations at Pavlok.com. And there's a lot of that mixes together. So from, 20 years of business experience, plus spending the last, 15 months or so in the behavior change world, and then pairing that together was a lot of where I was able to take, one of the things that I'm a real strong believer in are principles, right? Timeless, universal truths. And we live in this world of entrepreneur porn and everybody with their G6 and their crazy car and all of and then there's business hacks and ad hacks and marketing hacks and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not against those things, right? But the reality is a lot of that is a one-off use, right? You can do it once, but you can't build a business off of it. But there are business principles, right? Timeless, universal truths that guys like Rockefeller and Carnegie and JP Morgan use to build the companies that have shaped America. And if you read their books, their biographies, their business biographies, et cetera, you can pull these and extract these out. And as I was working and spent 20 years, with the side gigs in the fire department and working with guys, startups, different businesses, real estate investing, building my own stuff online, et cetera, right? You see a lot of these themes running through all of it. And if there are two kinds of people, right? There are the people that just kind of do what's in front of them and kind of take things as they come. And then there are those that see patterns, right? You got kind of the more philosophical mind that sees the patterns running through things and can interpret that and apply it. And that's kind of where I'm at, is as I've read these books and had this experience, I've seen these patterns and tried to apply them. And I struggle just like everybody else, right? As I talk about my method for scaling businesses, one of the things that I say a ton is it's not sexy, right? It's not a sexy way to do things, but it is the way that always works. And so you've got this idea that people have that if you want massive success, you've got to take massive action, right? And so entrepreneurs bounce from massive action idea to massive action idea and wonder why it never actually worked for the long term. And the reality is that, man, it's not, massive action is a good thing. I will take massive action when it presents itself to me, but you don't build your business on that, right? You build your business on these principles, these timeless universal truths that go for the long term. And then as you're doing that, you stay in that path and you stay the course. You take it, you leverage it, you do what you can, but you don't let it define your business. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And what I like about that too is like with the type of people you help the most, the 6 and 7 figure companies, they don't need to fall for the, get rich quick headlines, here's my Lambo. They know it's a long game. They know it's a big run, and they know the stuff that they have to do isn't easy, but they know they want to put the right type of work in, and that's why they come to you. Because like I put the little headline up, it's not a sexy way to do things, but it works. So I think that's the cool thing about your message, and people out there that are watching this that do fit that bracket, they know it's not going to be easy. They just want to do it better because they're going to be spending the time and effort anyways. So that's pretty cool. And like, so you developed this cash methodology that goes through a lot of different areas. And I'm just wondering, so because you've had such a huge amount of experience in all these different places, what made you kind of think, all right, I really need to sit down and put this into like a signature methodology? And how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I was actually, it's a funny story. I was playing disc golf with a buddy of mine who I'm in a mastermind group with, and we're walking through the woods looking for a disc that I'm going to say he lost it, but it might have been me that lost the disc. I don't know. And we were just talking through these concepts, and honestly, it all just kind of came together in a moment, right? Where, cash method, cash stands for clarity, accountability, stakes, and habits. And as we were talking through different issues we'd had in different businesses in the past, or as we've gone to mastermind groups, done presentations, and helped other entrepreneurs, what problems they showed, it all kind of came down to these 4 things. And so it just kind of naturally came together, honestly. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's a beautiful thing. And you take
cool
it.
Acronym too, right?
Yeah, I know. It just kind of works. And one of the things I've seen as I work with entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur that I've coached, that I've worked with, just mentored, whatever, they all think that they have clarity, right? They all think they understand what they need to do to get to the next place. And I'll sit down with them and we'll go through the first exercise, the clarity exercise. And by the time we're done, they're like, whoa, okay, now it's clear. I thought it was clear, but man, now it's really clear. And then I'm like, oh, hold on, wait 1 second. Now let's go to exercise 2. And then we go into exercise 2, and then it's just like, they're like, oh, and we've got 90 days of MITs already listed out, and the literal step-by-step, here's what you do to get to that in the next 90 days. And it's been amazing to watch because, I spent my time, of course, before I had the experience and before I had been in it this long, I spent my time as an entrepreneur where the ideas just bounced around in my head. Right. I thought I had clarity. I thought I knew what I was doing. And and I had my SMART goals and my other ways of doing things. And as I spent more time in the industry and the business, I learned new methods, new ways, and actually gained real clarity. And then was able to take that and drill that down into another process that gave me an even deeper level of clarity. And as I go and I meet with other entrepreneurs and help them through this, it's fun to watch, right? You just look at their face, you can see their face. And when the reality hits them that, oh my gosh, now I've actually thought through, right? I've thought through this whole thing from multiple angles, and I have a real plan. And it's almost like it's the first time they've ever seen a real plan. Yeah. And I remember that feeling. Like I was there. I've been there with other businesses. It's like, now I have this real plan. And then to go in, so that's the clarity part, into the accountability, right? Because entrepreneurs, by definition, we love change and excitement, and we take action. And, to do that daily grind for month after month after month, right, isn't exciting. Nothing's changing. It's hard to do. And so that's why I add in the accountability. And they have to, I check on them twice a day. Did you write down your MITs today? And then I come back later and I say, okay, did you do your MITs today? And that keeps them consistent. And there's this principle, I posted about it in my group, called the plateau of latent potential. And it's kind of a technical term, but basically what it means is that as you're doing all of these mundane tasks and you feel like it's not really doing anything, It's actually storing energy below the surface, right? You ever heard the story of the whole, would you rather have a penny doubled every day for 30 days or $1 million? Right? And as a kid, you hear it as a kid and you're like, oh, I want the $1 million. You hear it as an adult and then you think, the way that question was framed, I'm probably going to take the penny doubled a day, right? Just by the framing of the question. And that's the way to go, right? Because if you look at it though, you chart that on a graph, it's 1 penny, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. But it does this real flat trajectory across the graph. And then on the last 10% of the graph, it goes bam and just like spikes. And it's that power of compounding. And that's the concept behind this plateau of latent potential, is that you're doing all this work and you're hammering out your MITs. And it's like we said, it's not sexy. You feel like you're not getting anywhere. But then a couple of months down the road, you get that first result, which compounds into the second and compounds into the third. And now your graph just hit this spike and all the results come, right? And that's what I'm trying to ingrain in these other entrepreneurs, in what I teach and how I coach in my course. It's be consistent and stay accountable, do the work, and you're going to see that spike. Right. And it's like in the case study with Mark, same thing, right? It's, doing all of these things that aren't massive action and aren't sexy are the things that enabled him to double 2x his business in 4 weeks.
Absolutely.
And not everybody sees it happen in 4 weeks, but my experience has been you see it happen in within about 12 weeks. Right?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces of all this is clarity. So that being the first step, being the most important, I think that could be a really cool thing to start taking people through some of those exercises on just right on this live stream. If they don't go on for 2 hours or anything like that. If you guys watching the stream would find that helpful, just go ahead and type clarity down below in the comments, and would love to go through a few of these things and just see what we can unlock for people. If there's a way you can like compound it into like a 5-minute exercise or something like that, I think that would be really cool to give people like a quick win, and then they're gonna of course want to dive in and get the rest of it. Yeah.
So there is, you guys know, you've heard of Salesforce, right? They're a powerhouse. Okay. And Mark Benioff, founder of Salesforce, every project that Salesforce does, he puts through what he calls a V2 MOM. And it stands for vision, value, method, obstacle, measurement. Okay. So when I start with a customer or a client, like the first thing that I'm asking my client is, what's your vision? Where do you want to be 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now? And they have to state the vision in the present tense. I will be X, or my business will be X. Okay. And then I ask them why, right? Give me the value of this. What's the value? But we hit the value from two sides. Okay. So what happens if you hit this, right? Why is it important to hit this? And what happens if you don't hit this? Okay. What are the consequences? And that's one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs are really bad at, is the consequences, because part of just being an entrepreneur is the idea that we have these pie in the sky ideas and we're always positive, in how we think about things. We run after it. So I asked them to state what happens if you don't, because I want to put some stakes into the mix. And then we asked the method. Okay, so how do you achieve this? Give me 5 to 7 benchmark steps to see this come to life. Then we talk about obstacles. So as you're doing this, there are going to be things that come up that are going to be an issue. You're going to struggle with. They're going to, undercut all of your progress. And we want to know that ahead of time so we can plan and prepare for how to solve those problems. So then they fill out the different obstacles they're going to face. Like, I don't have a copywriter, or I don't know how to build websites, or, whatever the case may be. What are your obstacles? Maybe I don't have enough financing. I don't have the money for the inventory. So we start to lay out what their obstacles are. And then the very last step is measurement. What does success look like? How do we know when we've succeeded? What are our KPIs, or our key performance indicators, that we're going to use to measure our progress as we move forward? That's step 1. So after step 1, they've filled out a V2 MOM, and we go over it, and I ask more questions. And, honestly, they fill it out to a certain level. We jump on our call. We go over it together, and it probably doubles in size, right? I ask more kind of probing questions to dig in so that they can develop the ideas more fully. And that was phase one, where then they're like, oh, wow, now I can really see a picture of this. But then I take them into what I call the task tree. And a task tree is where you say, okay, on the method, right? What are the 5 to 7 steps, benchmarks to see this come true? We take the first one and I say, okay, what do you need to do to make the first one happen? So let's just say, for example, I want to launch a new product, okay? And one of the things I've got to do is I've got to build a funnel, okay? So they would say, build funnel. And then I would say, okay, what does building a funnel mean? Well, I've got to design the landing page. Well, what's that going to require? Well, I've got to write the copy, got to film the video. I've got to, get product images. Okay, so now to film the video, what's that require? Well, I've got to pick a location, I've got to pick a date, I've got to, get a videographer. And we literally just drill down into every single task. And we break every task down into its subtasks. We break that down into subtasks. And then what happens is when you're done, and this is something that can take a while, right? We don't do this on one call. This is a process that takes, about a week for them to think through all the, they started with 5 to 7 major tasks. And then every one of those major tasks broke down into 5 to 7 more, which broke into 5 to 7 more. But when we're done, if they follow that, right? So I call it a task tree because you have the trunk, which is your V2 MOM, and then you have your main branches, which are those 5 to 7 main tasks in your V2 MOM. And then we break all those down into tasks, subtasks, and that's just the branches getting skinnier, right? And what happens is when you come to this at the end and you look at all the skinny branches, those are your most important tasks. Mm-hmm. If you wake up every single day and you do one of the skinniest branches possible, or 3, right? I typically do 3 MITs. You do 3 of them, it's just a matter of time until every single thing is executed, everything is live, and everything is bringing ROI into your business. It's kind of like if you walk out your front door to go to the store. Maybe the store is 2 miles away or it's 20 miles away. As long as you put one foot in front of the other and don't stop, at some point, you'll get to the store. It's just a matter of time. There's no questions asked. You're moving forward, you're taking each step, you're going to get to your destination, just a matter of time. And so for some businesses, it happens like with Mark, it happened in 4 weeks. For other businesses, it takes 3 months, right, to see these things be realized. But gaining clarity in that way is also something else I found with entrepreneurs. One of the struggles that we have is we wake up each day, we want to build our business, we have this list of all these mundane tasks and fires to put out, and then we have all the dreams and hopes and things we want to do, and it's up to us to try to figure out what's important, right? So what should I do next? And we expend so much of our creativity and willpower on trying to figure out what to do next, right? I mean, if you guys, okay, so let me ask this. If you've experienced that, right, drop a comment below, right? Tell me below, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's next. Just write what's next in the comments below. Because I don't know, I deal with that. And every entrepreneur I've talked to has dealt with that. We spend so much energy on figuring out what's next, but when we're done with this clarity exercise, they never have to ask, right? Mm-hmm. They just jump into their task tree and what's next is listed. And another benefit of this too is that we all have our passions and the things we like to do, right? Maybe we love the copywriting, but we really don't like the graphic design, or we really don't like, the funnel architecture or whatever. We're going to hover around the thing that we like. And the things that we don't really enjoy and that we're not that great at. And I'm talking to solopreneurs as well, right? People, I mean, if you have a team, you probably got someone that does this stuff. But if you're a solopreneur, it's all on you. And you'll gravitate towards the things that you like doing. And the things you don't like doing just kind of get pushed to the bottom day after day and never get done. Well, when you have a task tree built out, you can't do that. Well, I've already done the copywriting. I don't have a choice but to move on to the next thing, which is the thing I don't like doing, but I've got to get it done. And that's where, in the next step of cash, the S is stakes. So there are stakes applied to your MITs. So you're going to have to execute your MITs, or I'm going to make you pay. Right? I'm going to make you pay. whether that's donate money to the opposing political party or to a charity that you hate or canceling your Netflix subscription, whatever it is. It's always different. Like every entrepreneur has a different pain point. And I'm going to find your pain point. And if you don't do that MIT, you've got to pay. So I'm going to be there to make sure that, yeah, the copywriting's done. Stop writing copy and don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Now it's time to do that thing you don't like, get it done, or boom, here's the steak. And that's how the accountability, that's actually real accountability, right?
Yep.
This isn't somebody who checks in once a week and is like, oh man, you should do better. And oh, things are going great, but man, you missed a couple things. What? No, this is like daily. Did you do it? No. I want a screenshot of you donating money to this charity that you hate, right? Send me the screenshot right now. Go in, pay it, send me a screenshot. Mm-hmm. And, and that's one of the things that we do with the MITs is we make sure that they put a photo proof. You can't just say you did it. You've got to screenshot, take a picture, whatever, drop your photo proof that proves that you did your MITs. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's an idea that I got from Manish. Manish uses photo proof in his stuff. And I love the concept. And so I incorporated that into what I'm doing because I want that accountability to be something that's legitimate, right? And that is changing. And so Manish taught me that. And I'm using it everywhere. I use it myself. I have an accountability partner for my MITs that I have to upload photo proof to, and vice versa. So
yeah.
And then of course
I had to start doing that one on mine. I don't do photo proof.
Yeah. It's tricky, but it also makes you more purposeful in how you do what you do.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and it really holds the gun to you to make it happen too. And that's something I do every now and then. Like if I'm working on something with a team member, or they're counting on me to provide them with something before they can do their job. I'll do those. Like I had one the other day. It was like, all right, we got this new campaign rolling out. We're doing this, we're doing that. Okay, we have to have this set of videos, this set of copy, and all right, when do we want it out? Well, we want it published like yesterday. So all right, hey, all right, I'll send you $200 if I don't give you this copy by 2:00 tomorrow. And I just knocked it out that day. So it's super powerful for sure. And I want you guys to even do that with yourself, do that with your friends, do that with your team. And it just makes everything like, because your to-do list stays in your head, but that fear of loss stays on top of your head. Right. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, I really don't want to have to do that. So you got to make it just painful enough to really want to do it. So execute or pay, and it will help you guys get your stuff done. So, hey, if you guys found that first exercise helpful, let me know. We ran through, I left it all in the comments, and if you guys are on YouTube or the podcast, I'm going to make sure that's down in the description below. But I wrote out all of the exercise for the getting clarity, and you guys heard about the stakes exercise just now. So hope that was helpful. And let's see, what else do we want to take them through? Or if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them down below. We'll get you going.
Yeah, I mean, it's really what serves you guys. I'm here to serve you guys, provide whatever they need. Another thing, so something else that we do and is the habit building, right? So I worked with this other writer and put together a resource on 6 keystone habits of millionaire entrepreneurs. And that's another one of the concepts that I picked up in Pavlok working with Manish. Are keystone habits, and the concept keystone habits comes from The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, right? He has this, I think it's chapter 4 is on keystone habits, and the idea behind a keystone habit is that this is a habit that has a kind of a butterfly effect, if you will, throughout your whole life, right? So there are habits. I get up every morning and the first thing I do is brush my teeth, right? That's a habit. It's not a keystone habit. Getting up every day and then first thing in the morning meditating, that's a keystone habit because it's going to have this effect throughout your entire life. And it's something that you can leverage into more success, more mindfulness, more focus, more whatever, right? And so as we're going through the cash method and we put them through this process where they gain clarity, we build in accountability, they have stakes for execution. In the background, we're building these habits into their life that they can leverage for greater success. things like morning routines, exercise, diet. And as I was working with my writer, she's a researcher as well. I think this ebook that we put together has like 50 footnotes on 6 habits, right? There is so much research out there. There have been so many studies done about this power of habit, that to neglect that almost seems foolish. I mean, like, why wouldn't you pay attention to these things, right? And then because it's a habit, it almost automates itself once you get it set up. So why not? I mean, we'll work for hours, weeks, months building automated chat bots and email follow-up campaigns, but we won't automate efficiency in our life by creating a morning routine or by working out 3 times a day, right? Yeah, I mean, we'll neglect.
Think about that. I've never seen it portrayed like that before. Of like, oh, we're going to work so hard to automate these pieces of this and that, but not our actual like physical body or habit performance.
Right. Yeah.
What the heck, guys? What's wrong with us?
Right.
So I think a lot of that comes down to psychology of habits and psychology of building and breaking. So we might have a tendency to figure out how to automate other things and save time and do this and do that in our business. But why are some people struggling with building it for themselves? And what are some steps they can take to start building habits that stick?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for most people, unfortunately, it's a lack of examination, right? Aristotle said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And too many people just kind of go through the motion. Their day drives them. Their business runs them. Their family runs them. And they don't ever stop and actually examine their lives. Why do I do what I do? Right? Why is this always the first thing I do? Why am I always doing this? Or is there a better way? Because we get complacent, and or our desires get drowned out by our tasks and all the stuff we have to do. And so that first step, I think personally, is the examination. Stepping back and saying, why am I doing what I'm doing, and asking those questions. And then, if you have clarity in life and what you're looking for personally or what you're looking for in your business, that examination is going to reveal certain things are helping promote the end goal that you desire, and certain things are hindering and holding you back from that thing you desire. And so then you can move into a lot of the processes that break bad habits, build good habits, step into the 6 keystone habits. And I think it's the same thing, though. You want to build a habit, right? There's a concept, I think I forget how to say his name, Baumgartner or whatever. He wrote a book called Willpower. And in that, he talks about pre-commitment, okay? And the idea is, you can say you need these clear lines and you need to set yourself up for success. So to say something like, I'm going to drink moderately. Well, what's moderately, right? To say I'm not going to drink, that's a really bright, really clear line, okay? And then if you set yourself up for that and you have accountability, right? It's one of the things we've talked about already. You have accountability to make sure that you stick to this, and you've got a very clear line that you understand, your accountability partner understands, then you find success more consistently. And when I talk about accountability and stakes as we've put them into the cash method, okay, this applies everywhere, guys. This isn't just how to scale your business. This is how to go to the gym. This is how to be keto, or whatever diet you're on. This is how to be vegan, or this is how to love your wife better or spend more time with your kids. Like, you can build accountability and stakes into everything. And the more consistent that you are with that, the more of a habit it becomes. And so you can take the keystone habits and you can say, okay, I'm going to build in accountability and stakes for keystone habits, but you can also do it for other habits, right? There's no reason not to. It works, guys. That's why I consider it a principle that leads to success, is because it works every time. Unless you don't, right? It works if you do. You could look at your accountability partner. And say, you know what? I'm not paying and I'm done. I quit. Don't text me anymore, right? And it's not going to work because you walked out on it. But if you're willing to put up with it and deal with the pain and stay consistent and pay when you fail, you're going to find that ultimately in the end, you're going to succeed and you're going to hit that goal. And that's the reality. That's why I say it's these timeless universal truths, things that Rockefeller did. He worked day in, day out, and there were some points where there was massive action taken that led to massive success. And then there were other points where it was just a grind for a decade and the growth was slow, you know? Same thing with Carnegie, same thing with JP Morgan. And as you go through these, you can see that. And that's why I do that is we get caught up in, you know, business hacks or quick methods or like entrepreneur porn. And you hear some guy's one little quote taken out of context, and we try to build businesses on that stuff. And then wonder, why didn't it work? Why didn't I make it? And it's missed these fundamental truths, right? And it's the same with your habits in your life. Did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Dove super deep into it. Okay, cool. Let's see. What other questions do we have for him? And let's see. So I would love to hear about a quick overview of your case study too. So you help somebody add an additional $225,000 in revenue in a 30-day period by applying this method. And that's just amazing. Like, of course, they were already, you know, doing good and making money, but that's still a huge result. So I would love to hear kind of what happened and what were some of the big like aha moments in working with them and just what went down.
Yeah. So back in September, a buddy of mine in Texas called me up, and he had a cousin on the East Coast. And this guy had built a marketing company, and it's not just online marketing. He was more traditional marketing as well, with ad buys, magazines, TV spots, radio, stuff like that. And he'd been working for about 5 years to build this business, and started off as a solopreneur, right? His skill set, his ideas, his zone of genius. And then over the course of about 3.5 years, got it to $1.5 million a year in revenue. And I think his team was about 7 to 10 people on his team at that point. And then the last 18 months, it's just been stagnant. It's been sitting there at $1.5 million and not growing. And, you know, honestly, $1.5 million, man, that's not a huge marketing firm, but that's nothing to scoff at as an entrepreneur. We'd all love to make $1.5 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so my buddy connected us to see if I could help with what I've been working on. So I got in with him, jumped in, and, you know, I found what I think is something that's very common amongst entrepreneurs, especially when they start as solopreneurs, is we have to do everything, right? That's how it starts. I don't have money. I'm kind of bootstrapping it, kind of grassroots style, going to build this business. And then it starts to grow beyond your capacity. So you hire someone. But it's your business. And so what you do is you stay really involved in what that first employee is doing. And then you have a second employee and a third employee. And as I went through with him on Clarity, another thing that I think is pretty common amongst entrepreneurs is they know what they need to do. They just can't do it for some reason, whether they're tied to every part of the business, so that's kind of constricting, or they just don't have the willpower or the discipline, whatever. They know what they need to do, but they're not getting it done. And so as I talked to him and started asking him questions, he knew what he needed to do. He needed to get back to his zone of genius. He built this company on his ability to network and listen. He was really good at listening to what his potential customers had to say and where they wanted to go, interpreting that and pitching back a vision for how to execute it. But at this point, for the last 1.5 years, he had built basically a cell for himself in this company where he was the bottleneck. Like every process, every campaign that was launched, every procedure, every new hire required his input and his touch at some point. Mm-hmm. And that just crowded out his day. He couldn't get, he hadn't been in a one-on-one meeting with a potential customer in, 7 months. And before that, they were really sparse, and so as we talked and went through it, I took him to the clarity exercise and we got real, right? You've got to remove yourself from this. We've got to automate this. We've got to train up people with this. We need to create protocols, right? We've got to systemize your operations. And so we built out that task tree for him. And the whole goal in our task tree was to free him up to get back to his zone of genius, right? Which is something you say all the time. Get him back to his zone of genius so he could begin to build the business again. And man, I mean, it was like pulling teeth. right? I mean, and of course it's his baby, right? So we start going through and I'm checking in on him twice a day and he's executing the stuff and he's getting there. And then after about 2 weeks, he had removed himself from about 80% of the daily nonsense that didn't really need him. You know, he had hired rock stars. These people on his team were really, really good. He didn't need to babysit them, right? It wasn't necessary. It was just more of kind of an insecurity of his that he had. And so after about 2 weeks, we had removed him from 80% of that, which enabled him, gave him enough time to begin to do what he loved, right? The part of his business that he really, truly enjoyed. And so then in that third week, he got back out, started talking to people, networking, meeting up with others. And then in the fourth week, I mean, literally, it was crazy. It was like Monday, $75,000 a month deal closed. Tuesday, $75,000 a month deal closed. Thursday, $75,000 a month deal closed. All in that fourth week, he closed 3 of these. You know, he's got his packages set up, and it was this one package he had closed. But he closed 3 in a week, just directly after removing himself. And, you know, and part of that was because, you know, so it's the consistency, right? He didn't want to do these things, didn't like doing these things, but I made sure he did, right? That's what I was there for. I helped him get clarity on how to step out, how to get back to his zone of genius, kept him accountable to actually doing those things, and it worked. And I think, me personally, if I didn't have an accountability partner, I probably wouldn't have seen that process through, right? If it was my company and I was removing myself and giving the reins fully over to employees, you know, and now in my mind, there's this huge risk that I'm running. But in reality, it's not that big, but it feels big to me, right? I probably wouldn't have executed if I didn't have an accountability partner. So I get it. But then as he did that stuff and was able to step back, then he was able to get back to what he loves. And that's when I mean, literally, he's doing a 1.5 a year, adds 225K a month. That's essentially 2xing the entire annual revenue. Because this wasn't a one-off contract. This is a package for monthly, right? This is ad buys, media spend, whatever. But this is a monthly recurring revenue from all 3 of these contracts. So he's essentially doubling the size of his company, and he did it in 4 weeks.
Yeah, more than double. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, this is it. That's why I want to get the word out, right? I want to get the message out because so many of us neglect that truth. Being consistent, being committed, staying the course, and doing the mundane things, right? It's not sexy, but it works, right? It worked for Mark. And it worked for Mark fast, okay? I don't promise anyone 4 weeks to make 225K, you know?
Sign me up.
Right? Yeah, sign me up. You know, every business is different, but it does work, right? I've never had in actual coaching clients, in beta clients, in entrepreneurs I've mentored, I've never had it not work for someone who didn't do who did the work. If you'll stay and do the work, it's going to work. It's just a matter of when, right? That's that plateau of latent potential idea. It's building this energy beneath the surface, and it's going to explode and shoot up if you can stay the course long enough. And it's like, you know, I have this this training I did for a local mastermind group called The Real Key to Success. And that's the concept. And it's the tortoise and the hare, right? The hare gets distracted. The hare does this. The hare goes over there. The tortoise just keeps going. And it's not sexy and it's not fast, but he ended up winning, right? And we've all heard that story growing up. But then at some point along the way, we saw a picture of a Lambo and a G5, and we forgot about the tortoise, right?
Yeah.
We became the hare.
The Lambos and the G5s go fast.
Right? We became
go fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's true. And what's really cool about it is like the people that I know you can help the most understand all of what you're saying, and they might even understand the you know, the clarity exercise that we went through. It might even understand the stakes part. But the cool part about it is actually taking them through it and getting it out of their heads, pulling them through the mud and making this stuff happen. So if you guys are, so we're just about wrapping up on time, but if you guys are finding this stuff valuable, Nicholas also has an awesome group, just got started up, community forming over there to really talk about this kind of stuff, all the things from the habits, the clarity, the mindset, the optimizing yourself. And like, you honestly can't afford not to learn more about these topics, because as you guys can see, it can completely change your life and business in a very short amount of time. And the first step is awareness. So just being in somebody's circle like Nicholas and paying attention to like just getting those little drips of content out there, posting up all the time, just makes you aware of what you're doing and gives you actionable stuff that you can actually go and take and fix. You know, this is long before you ever hire him or get in his course or whatever. He's dropping stuff in there that's going to help you. So highly recommend the group for sure. Go swing by over there. I'm going to make sure to go drop the link down in the comments over at 7-Figure Scaling Habits and Productivity Mastermind. Pretty great group. And let's see, what's one main message you want to leave everybody with before we hop off?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I've seen have the most impact for the long term is consistency. Be consistent, guys. You know what you need to do, get it done, be consistent, stay the course, and don't get distracted by the shiny thing, right? Or go after the shiny thing while being consistent. Do both.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not a problem if take the massive action, but be consistent. And that is, I think, in 20 years of being in the business world and entrepreneur world, that is the one factor that I've seen lead to more success than anything else. I'll give you an example here. There's a guy I went to high school with, kind of a bum and no ambition. His biggest goal in life was to get home after work at night and watch American Idol. Shoot me in the face, right? That's my nightmare. And he worked at one of those rental places where you rent couches and you rent computers or whatever, making minimum wage. And he showed up every day. And then he got promoted to this next spot. And not even good at his job, but just showed up every day. And then the manager gets fired for something, and he's got the most experience and he's been there the longest and knows all the processes. So apparently then he gets promoted to manager and doesn't even like what he does, but he shows up every single day, right? Shows up every day. And then they needed a regional manager. And so they promoted him because he showed up every single day. And now this guy makes 160 grand a year and he literally has zero ambition. Okay. Like his greatest goal in life is to get home and watch The Voice. He's overweight. He's unhealthy, smokes cigarettes, never goes to the gym, stays up late, gets up and goes to, seriously, but what did he do? How did he get there? Right. He had no aim, no end goal of climbing the corporate ladder, being a regional manager, making 150 to 180 a year. None of that was his goal. He literally just showed up every day. People miss that. And imagine if you showed up every day and you had a goal and you had ambition and you had a vision for the future and you had a work ethic, right? And you pursued excellence. Imagine how much showing up and being consistent can be compounded when you have all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your whole analogy of the, double a penny a day, because that's so true. And we all know this too. And sometimes it can be painful to work our faces off and then nothing happened yet.
Yeah.
All right, wait for the bell curve, man. It's gonna go, Right. So it's really exciting. And then once those things start to click, that's where everything is like, oh, that's how this fit in with that and fit in with that I did 6 months ago.
Right. And you don't even see it, but you'll see it,
Yeah. And it's crazy. Just the other last month, actually, somebody messaged me and they said, "Hey, Arnie, where do I buy your course?" And I sent them the link. Said, "Hey, if you have any questions, let me know." And then I looked up in the chat with this person, and the last conversation I had with them was 2 years before that, and I was giving them a tip about their marketing. I had a chat with them 2 years ago. They've been following. We hadn't chatted at all, but they knew I was the go-to person for my topic. And then when they were ready, they were like, hey, where do I buy that? You know? So
Right.
it's crazy. Like that's the kind of compounding stuff that happens, but that can't happen if people are what I call the squirrelpreneurs. They're like, oh, look at that. Look at that. They're just running around all over the place. So
Right.
yeah, stay focused, guys. And yeah, so guys, make sure to hop on over, join Nicholas's group, and pick up that case study. Type cash down below. We'll get you hooked up with the full case study so you can see a little bit deeper behind the scenes. And yeah, man, really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. Glad to serve. Hope it added value to your group and that, you know, everyone else, you know, everyone can use this stuff and help see that change for them, especially 2019. It's that time of year, right?
Yes.
Build out the plan for the next one. So work this stuff into your plan, guys. It will make 2019 much better than 2018.
No doubt. Yeah. So make sure you guys see that little exercise in the comments there on the steps and put that into action. Join the group, catch the case study, and you guys will be moving toward wherever you want to go, breaking it down into a whole lot easier thing. So thanks everybody for hopping in another episode of MEC TV, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.